Welcome to the first episode of what will hopefully be many episodes of a offshoot of Project Sanity. We're calling it TBD, Two Black Dudes. Be honest, I don't know. Okay, I guess I have to confess to Adair where I came up with this name from since it is the first episode. And Adair is my co-host. I am Brandon, aka Chasey Trapman, the rap game Auntie Anne's. Because no, because I leave the haters salty and twisted.
Oh my god.
TB, TBD is actually the only three-letter abbreviation I could come up with that didn't remind me of something sexual. So, because there's always there's ATM and then there's PIN, like a personal identification number. So I couldn't think, and everyone knows what PIN stands for, right? And it's really hard to get those fluids out of your nostrils.
Oh
So
my good lord. This is
yeah, so
this is us folks.
speaking speaking of speaking of three-letter abbreviations that remind you of being sodomized, uh, Adair was at the DNC because he is. I'm sorry, yeah. Adair, introduce yourself, my platonic slash Socratic life partner.
I'm Adair, one of the contributors to Project Sanity. Follow me on Twitter, guys, at ADAIRSCHMIDT capital PS. But yeah. So I was at the DNC because for whatever reason I'm some kind of masochist and decided let's run for delegate to a multi-million-dollar event they make you pay to get to out of pocket. So show up, right? You think everything's going to be sunshine and fucking rainbows because that's what it looks like on TV. Well, surprise, surprise, it's a goddamn commercial, and any form of dissent is swiftly and immediately put out. God, I mean, there's just so much that happened. I mean, should I just give a basic rundown of the week of the major shit that happened and where you can find it if it's recorded?
Well, I mean, okay, let's talk about the important stuff first. I heard Boys to Men was there,
Boys to Men
and
was there.
and so from my perspective, I was hoping the DNC would transform into a '90s R&B reunion concert, and that would have been the thing that got me to vote for Hillary Clinton. Had it just, forget Cory Booker, forget Tim Kaine, whoever that is, and just Jagged Edge, Cisco, D'Angelo, Maxwell, oh my gosh, what's their name? New Edition, Belle Biv DeVoe. It would have that would have been really, because if you're gonna pander, go hog wild,
Well,
go
that's the
real
thing.
deep into it.
Is they were pandering to the folks at home. They definitely were not pandering to the people in that arena, because I gotta point this out. Right behind us sat the donor class, and I think only one night did I see black folks up there. One night. And we're talking donating $10,000 to sit back there is because you're a quote unquote honored guest. Ain't no way in hell you're gonna have a whole lot of black folks sitting back there, in my opinion, at a commercial like this where the majority of the people affiliated with the party are white. And then here's something that I think most people didn't realize. During a few of the black speakers at the DNC, they actually on TV were showing some kind of fucking comedy tidbit while these important people are giving goddamn speeches. And I'll have to look at my recordings, go back and cycle through it to see who exactly it was and when it happened. But that was something I was surprised about.
Well, I mean, who was black that spoke at the DNC? Was it is Cory Booker black? He's caramel. He's
Cory
caramel
Booker's
complexion.
black. Let's not colorism our own folks here. But no, Cory Booker's black. This really amazing reverend was speaking. He's black. Elijah Cummings, a few other folks spoke, and to be
Oh,
quite honest with
Ellison.
you, by Wednesday I was trying not to fall asleep in my seat, so I don't even remember half of the people that spoke. I pretty much just remember the big protest, and that's that, and Secret Service being yeah, let's stand here and flash our guns at you guys and point at people. That's what the fuck we're here to do. We're here to intimidate a bunch of goddamn delegates who had to go through insane amounts of security screening to even get to this fucking point. But I'm just gonna sit here, yawn, and purposely show you my gun before pointing at you and speaking into my fucking earpiece.
Well, I mean, they look cool. You gotta put your finger to your ear to look cool. You get that sort of bravo, bravo. The chickens in the hen house. It's what? It doesn't mean anything. I remember Cory Booker's speech because I was on a date that night, and we had gone to get Mexican food, and she invited me back to her place to watch the DNC. And
That's why she invited you. Yeah. Let's go back to my place and watch. Who the fuck are you dating? That's what I want to know.
I go on a lot of weird dates, man. Anyway, no, we actually went back and watched like 6 hours of the DNC, and that is why we never. That's why we never spoke again. That's one of the reasons why we never spoke again. But I remember listening to Cory Booker's speech, and it must have been at least 80 years long. And the only part that sticks out of my head is that he kept sweating and like dabbing his forehead like one of those southern preachers. And no, and then he goes to like, he does that thing where he decides, okay, I'm gonna, quote an African saying. And we've talked about this before, but I swore to God he was gonna quote like some sort of like tongue clicking Kosa saying, and because he's like, I'm going to like there's a saying in Africa that I think is important to listen to here, and I was just like, please don't, or I was like, please do it, please go ahead. Because I swore, and she did too, and she was, a tiny Jewish girl. She swore that he was going to just start going, wait, and in English that means, because the saying was completely innocuous. It was just about teamwork. As a team we can do more than like alone. Because I guess that was the theme of the DNC, sort of Captain Planet type unity. Which is, I guess, ironic because the nominee was Clinton and her history on fracking. But yeah, it was just some innocuous saying on unity or teamwork, and I was like, oh, that could have been from anywhere. It didn't have to be an African saying.
Right. Well, that's one of the things I noticed about the DNC. It was pandered to black people, even though we're really not going to invite many of you here. Like, that was the overall theme of the DNC.
But it was even good pandering because, like I said, if they had just brought out every '90s R&B group, which, let's be honest, you could get Cisco to show up anywhere for like $20,
Fair.
and I don't know, some silver hair dye. It's like, if you're gonna pander, like, it comes like, go deep, go deep, but it comes across as pandering by old uncool white people. Like, we're gonna get like, what are the kids into nowadays? Boys to Men and Katy Perry. The DNC was basically just another one of those yogurt commercials. You know, the ones that have, the suburban Mexicans in them, where it has like, it's the mother, the father, the daughters, the grandmother, and they're just sitting around the kitchen, and they come in, and they all speak perfect fluent English, but they'll just pepper in Spanish words. Like the daughter will come in and she'll go, "I had a great day at school. How was your day, abuela?" And yeah, I know people actually do that. I know that that's an actual thing people do. I mean, there's a word for it. It's called code mixing. But when you do it, so whether you do it in a commercial or whether Tim Kaine just suddenly starts speaking Spanish, or had Cory Booker just started speaking in Kosa, or the clicking language that people know it as, well, one of them, just tone it down. Just tone it down. Racism is complicated. It's a series of structures and interpersonal relationships. Being tacky or not being tacky is incredibly easy. Just stop. Just stop. Like, what?
Well, that was it. By the way, Katy Perry totally fucked up during the warm-up. Like, I'm sitting there, because I got there super early that day because we had fucking uncredentialed seat fillers. So if anyone's seen that Craigslist ad, we're pretty much assuming that's fact at this point, because people were literally coming down trying to steal seats and had no credentials, and this is super fucking secure. But as she's up there, I don't like Katy Perry's music in general. I don't like it. I don't think she's all that great. But she's up there trying and is just constantly missing notes, and then at the end she just drops her microphone as she's trying to do some fucking spin thing, and I was just like, wow. This is what people have paid thousands of dollars to see. Tens of thousands of dollars, and this is what my black ass worked and fucking campaigned for and raised money for, and I'm going without sleep to see. I ain't come here for Katy Perry's dumb ass. I came here to vote for Bernie Sanders and go the fuck home. Like, that was my plan.
Well, I mean, it's fine, I guess. The celebrities who showed up were just Paul Simon and Bradley Cooper. Like, Who is voting based on what?
Do you realize that only people at home actually remember that shit? Like, those of us that were there do not really remember that because it was so fucking hot, so boring, and the seats were uncomfortable as shit.
Well, I mean,
I don't give a damn about the people at home while I'm there. If we're going to have celebrity, let my ass come when we actually about to vote, but we have to be there at a certain time, so that way if any of the votes do happen, we're going to be able to, sit down and vote. But we ain't even vote on shit. We adopted the platform as is, and that was some bullshit because they did it by affirmation. We did a roll call vote in the morning before the DNC actually even took place. Like, I woke up for breakfast and then cast my vote for Bernie Sanders at my delegation's breakfast. And that's all we voted on. Like, we ain't vote on shit else.
Wait, the platform? I've only read the platform that was released on July 1st. That was the one I read.
That's pretty much the platform that was accepted.
There's nothing in that platform, though. Like, it's a bunch of vague ideals.
And that is what, I feel like that's the DNC in general.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the Democratic Party that everyone always forgets when it's revisionist history. Because they always talk about how the Republicans are on the wrong side of history and how the Democrats are on the right side of history. But they're not ever proactively on the right side of history. The Democratic Party is never fighting for anything. Well, let me amend that statement. The Democratic Party is never fighting for any progressive social idea, at least at the national level for the past 30 years. They are always fighting for a neoliberal corporate agenda in the Senate and the presidency. But again, that's not really a fight because the Republicans are for that stuff as well. They just position themselves on, the quote unquote correct side. Like, we acknowledge climate change is real. We acknowledge that racism is a thing. And therein really lies the problem. They've created a situation with the Republican Party, and yes, they've created that situation with the Republican Party. That's something you should never forget. Yes, maybe the Republican Party created Donald Trump, but the Democratic Party created the Republican Party. They have allowed them to get this far, which something like Trump could happen, and that's something you do not hear enough. That the modern Republican Party is a byproduct of the two-party system that the Democrats and Republicans both seek to maintain. So you can't look at Trump without also looking at the culpability of Democrats over the past 30 years with pushing this sort of racist neoliberal rhetoric and allowing the Republican Party to go just batshit on social issues in order to disguise their own the Democratic Party's own bad economic strategies. Their co-option of Reagan economics or Reaganomics. But yeah, they just want to rhetorically position themselves on the side of progressive social issues, but never actually push legislation very hard to solve them. And simply by nature of the Republicans' inability to acknowledge those problems, they come across as being less evil.
Exactly. But what the fuck are you doing about it?
Yeah.
And it's the Clinton party. It's the I'm going to say whatever it takes to get people to like me party. They're that awkward kid at school who never really had any friends and is now trying way too goddamn hard. Like, yeah, my parents are out of town. I've got free booze. Except in this case, the free booze is, hey guys, racism is bad. Okay?
Oh, no.
Racism is bad.
Oh, no, let's be very clear. Hillary Clinton is the political equivalent of a fuckboy. That was what, that is what the entire last 2 days the DNC were. It was, her friends coming out and saying, no, you should really give her a chance because she's a really good person. She has a lot of good qualities. She has a lot of good, she cares about stuff. She's a human. That was really the good part. She's a human. She respirates. She gives birth to live young.
I don't even know about that. I don't know. Are we going to start like a birther campaign for Chelsea Clinton? I don't think that's actually your parents. I think you might really be half lizard person or hatched from an egg. Like, have you seen Hillary Clinton up close? I mean, seriously, that lady looks frightening.
She has the worst laugh.
I don't even, her voice doesn't bother me, but just same with Bill, though. Bill Clinton looked zombified and stoned as shit. Bill Clinton looks like a zombie, and Hillary Clinton, I swear to God, is a fucking lizard person because regular people just don't. No, there's no way.
Well, Bill has some actual medical issues. I think he has Parkinson's along with some sort of heart condition.
When the hell did he get Parkinson's? I feel like this would be major news and everybody would know he has Parkinson's, but I don't think Parkinson's makes you look like somebody sucked your soul from your mouth. Like, this is not Harry Potter, and there are not Dementors that are real. This
But I mean, he
dude
is a
looks
vegan too,
stoned
so
and zombified, and it's kind of frightening.
he is a vegan too. But I mean, just to go back to what he talked. What? I'm not saying that all vegans look like they've had their soul sucked
I
out by.
think that's pretty much the vision all of our listeners are gonna have is, wow, this asshole just said vegans have no souls. I mean, they're not gingers. Let's be fair.
But that's okay. So that is exactly what the last 2 nights of the DNC felt like. It felt like that one scene from South Park where the boys go over to the ginger kid's parents' house and they ask, "Well, they have souls, don't they?" And then and then Barack Obama just gets up on stage and goes, "Well, I'm sure she has a soul. I she has to, right?" But in a more eloquent way.
I mean, he gave one hell of a speech, but it really wasn't all that memorable, and I was frankly very disappointed in his speech. Like, it's like,
I don't
man,
listen to Obama speeches. Like, because he's such a good orator. Like, he's so animated and he gives such good, you know, he gets you into the moment, but they're
I didn't
empty.
feel any of that. I didn't feel a single bit of that as I'm sitting there live, like 200 feet from the dude. I'm just like, I'm more worried about what I'm going to have for dinner and what beer I'm getting tonight. Like, that was my primary concern while listening to President Obama speak.
Okay, so going to speeches, I would say my least favorite speech was probably Elizabeth Warren's speech
Oh, yeah, no, that was
because
horrible. I
because
think,
it was so disingenuous, and it was the entire Democratic Party summed up in one speech, which is I'm going to acknowledge this problem that we contribute to, and I'm going to give you a solution that has nothing to do with the problem and won't
right.
solve it. In fact, will make it worse. Because that's what she came out and said. The system is rigged, and in my head, I'm like, okay, by who, for who, and what are we going to do about it?
Exactly.
And the answer was, by Clinton, for Clinton, vote for Clinton. And that system, like that, the idea of, okay, so one of my many personal pet peeves is when people use the word system to abstract and separate themselves from a problem. So the first thing I do when someone tells me the system is rigged, my instinct is to go, okay, who do they mean by the system? Because that's the question you should ask, because the system is not some amorphous thing that sits over people's heads that forces them to do things. I mean, we could talk about, how systems have their own agency and institutional inertia and all these other things, and how hard it is to turn the ship, how hard it is to turn that big tanker when you're president. But at a certain point, you're talking about people. So when she says the system, let's be very clear. What she means by the system is the Democratic Party is rigged. And what she means by that, the democratic process within the United States of America is corrupt. One of the most corrupt, at least according to I believe it's a Harvard study that came out, one of the most corrupt and ill designed and ill enforced and ill implemented democratic systems in the entire Western world. And so she gets up on stage and says, the Democratic Party is corrupt. The DNC is corrupt. And I want you to keep supporting the DNC. But if you say it that way, if you say the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Hillary Clinton and Donna Brazile and everyone who's putting their voice behind this is asking you to both support corruption and be part of that corruption, it sounds bad. But when you say the system is rigged, it allows you to divorce that problem from people. So both everyone is accountable and no one is accountable.
Well,
And
there was a few that I liked. I feel like Michelle Obama, as annoyed as I was that the First Lady kept talking about Donald Trump, I think she gave the best speech of the DNC. I think her speech was even better than Cory Booker's. And I think Senator Sanders' speech wasn't terrible. I feel like he was still stumping and still really trying hard to be like, hey, here are the ideals that we should be fighting for. Now, reluctantly, I'm going to say you should vote for Hillary Clinton, even though, she's kind of the antithesis of all of these ideals that I've come up with. But hey, I've got her to say she's going to do these 4 or 5 things, but she's mostly said them because they're politically expedient, and I doubt they're actually going to happen. But hey, there's something.
yeah, I can't wait to meet this Hillary Clinton person they're talking about, because they kept talking about this wonderful woman who believes in, the rights of minorities and self-determination of countries and equal pay and, high minimum wage and single payer. And I don't know, like, who is that person? Who,
I don't know either.
I don't remember seeing
I
her anywhere.
But we have gone 15 minutes, so I think we should switch to the next topic and tell folks if you guys want to hear more of this conversation. I'm sure we'll do it again next week, or you can catch it on Project Sanity on YouTube live every Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yeah. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. Uh,
Just because I've got more Twitter followers than you, Brandon.
Whatever. I mean, people follow me in real life. That's really what it is.
That's not something you should brag about. Like, hey, yeah, let me get on a podcast and say I have a stalker. That's...
It's mostly just people in department stores and
the casually racist stalker. Hey, there's a black guy and I think he might be stealing. Like, that should be the tagline for every department store ever.
I think he might be stealing. I'm very popular with security guards. Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about the Green Party, because I know that's really where you're headed, and it's where I'm at as well. And I think that there's some contention about, but with the Nina Turners and the Bernie Sanders is. Although when I say that, I feel like I'm a Gollum saying precious, but the Bernie Sanders is, wanting to reform from the idea of reform from the inside, the idea of saving the soul of the Democratic Party, but like the Democratic Party has a soul or whatever, which seems like the job of the clergy, but whatever. So from my perspective, I don't have as much faith in myself as I guess people like TYT and Tom Hartman have when it comes to actually affecting meaningful change within an organization that big and that corrupt. And I also don't have the sort of hubris, or I mean delusion, to believe that I can hold someone accountable once I elect them, especially if, independent of what they do and how I feel about it, I will champion their re-election if I am given the alternative choice as something worse. So like Hillary Clinton can do whatever she wants these 4 years. If they put up Ryan or Ted Cruz, God forbid, I'm gonna have to vote for Ted Cruz, or the Zodiac Killer as he's known in some parts of America. Like, I will be forced to vote for her again. So like my only power becomes me not voting for her the first time and sort of taking that high ground. Like, ha ha ha, I didn't support this. But what about you?
So I'm of two minds here. One mind is, hey, you know what? At least, because here's the thing that I think people don't really see unless you've looked into the mouth of the beast. Your state party is vastly different than the DNC, right? So Washington State's Democratic Party is actually really great. Our state party chair, Jackson Ravens, he's got a great, like, Jackson, that's a pretty good goddamn name. But he was really fair, really worked hard with this, to the point where he was like, hey guys, if you want to protest or wave a Jill Stein flag, essentially, is like, as long as you don't do anything illegal, I will make sure your credentials don't get yanked. And I think that right there shows a really big difference. So I wouldn't mind staying involved with the state and the local level party, but I'm definitely thinking of running for city council. And if I run for city council, I'll probably run as a green, just because it's probably, there's more built-in infrastructure if you run as a Democrat, but there's more, like, you'll get just party voters, period. But politics is all about who gets out and knocks on the doors, and I think I have an advantage if I do that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm definitely, like, I'm voting down ticket. I voted Dems for my primary, but that's mostly because I know these people personally now. I think when you get involved in your party and you start actually meeting some of these people that are running, like, I've met people running for Congress, I've met people running for governor, I've met people running for state house and state senate, I've met people running for city councils, school boards, state superintendent, all these other positions, and I've actually got to know them on a one-on-one level and really understand who they are and what their policy is, so I felt more comfortable voting for them. So I don't know. I think involvement is key, and if you get involved in the party and you're like, no, this shit's corrupt, fuck you guys, fuck the DNC, fuck everything you stand for, then I think definitely just jump ship. But for me, I think I'm gonna keep a foot in both parties. Like, I like some of the people at my local level, but I'm definitely leaning towards the Green Party because I'm just tired of the bullshit.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not one who champions party affiliation in that kind of blind go team go way.
Right.
But at a certain point, I think that at the local level, you're talking less about parties and more about
Right.
people, more about individuals who have individual goals and for their community, for their state, whatever. But once you get to that national level, the Senate and some members of the Congress, some members of the House, and especially the president, you see much more ethereal goals that just they devolve into antagonism.
Right.
But I want to awkwardly segue back to the topic of accountability for 1 second, from the Green Party, because I just had a thought and I don't want to lose it. So I think a lot of people now, because we're hearing this talk of, well, support her now, hold her accountable later, hold her feet to the fire later. But I think a lot of people have a different definition of accountability than I do. See, my definition of accountability is the ability to hold someone to account, i.e., the ability to use what power I have to get someone to change their behavior, to actually change their behavior. If I know from the beginning that no matter what I do, there is no manner of redress that I can engage in that will get someone to stop their problematic behavior, I do not believe I can hold them to account. If it's simply a matter of, well, I can go out on my platform every day, whether that be Facebook or my podcast or my YouTube channel, and inform people about what they're doing, I don't think that's accountability. I think that's dissemination of information. And worse than that, I think that people know that going in, and they've accepted that as the new form of accountability. I think after 8 years of Obama, liberals have accepted a very, very small definition, a very, very low bar for accountability, as the simple dissemination of knowledge and the admonishment and whining of someone else's actions that they supported, as a manner of assuaging their own personal guilt for supporting them and also getting other people to support them. But that's not accountability. And I'm unwilling to acknowledge that as true accountability, or any accountability really, because that's just dissemination of knowledge. And worse than that, it's cognitive dissonance. It's a lowering of a standard, because we've allowed the system to become one in which we've been held hostage to the point where we can't hold someone accountable. We can't say that 4 years from now, I won't vote for this person. If you hold someone accountable now, that's one of the things I find most frightening about her, because as with every other speaker, I was being told of Clinton's vast experience, how well suited she is for this job, how uniquely qualified she is for this job. But ultimately, she still has the same prescriptions for society that she had 20 years ago that have proven to be wrong. She's still in favor of these reckless free trade deals like the TPP. She still speaks positively of NAFTA. Bill Clinton can't help himself with the whole, good minorities versus bad minorities thing. And I can't, the experience without actually engaging with what happened during that experience, comes across as just being, it doesn't make any sense to me. It's like a perverse kind of logic, where people are trying to convince me to vote for the town arsonist to be the fire chief, because he's technically been at the most fires. And that's Clinton in a nutshell. She has so much experience, but she doesn't seem to learn anything from it. She hasn't seemed to learn that toppling regimes does not work. She doesn't learn anything from all of the experience she has. So what's the point of touting them as a boon in her favor if they don't teach her anything? You might as well have someone with no experience, like a Barack Obama, which I guess is what people chose in 2008, than someone who has vast amounts of experience but hasn't learned anything from it. And say what you want about this electoral cycle, but it's been dominated by Trump. Every campaign in this electoral cycle has been dominated by Trump. Donald Trump is the best thing that could have happened to Hillary Clinton, and because she's been able to successfully decentralize herself from her own campaign and make it about stopping Trump, as opposed to anything that she is going to do. Anything she agrees to do is just it's a handout for progressives or whatever.
Oh yeah.
$15 minimum wage. It's a concession she didn't have to make, because ultimately
Right.
Trump is so important to stop. I mean, that's the tagline, right? Hope, Trump, fear. It might as well just be Trump, Trump, Trump.
Well, that's not that tagline. That's not for you and I. And I noticed that at the DNC also. Those speeches were not meant for those of us who were there. Those speeches were meant for those at home. Those speeches were meant for Republicans who are afraid to vote for Trump but have such an absolute distaste of Hillary Clinton, be that based in just because of the fact that she's a woman, in which case they're probably not going to vote for her because they're a goddamn misogynist, or if they're like someone like you and I who have actual problems with her policy. They're saying, well, hey, look, in comparison to Donald Trump, the crime bill wasn't that bad. And compared to calling all Mexicans rapists and criminals, saying black kids and brown kids are super predators probably wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Well, you see,
and I think that's really what they're playing on, is though Trump has said worse things than Hillary has.
Well, see, from my perspective, America has already said no to Trump's kind of racism. Like, America has said no to that already. Theoretically.
I think parts of America have.
Yeah, parts of America have.
We're getting back to demagoguery, and it's quite frightening. I mean, you see what's going on with Black Lives Matter. You see with and I hate to bring this up, and especially in this context, but that guy who drove a truck through a crowd of protesters in France, people the day before were saying I would do the same exact thing to Black Lives Matter protests, but when that happens, they're like, well, what kind of monster would do that kind of shit? It's this cognitive dissonance that white America has, and I will say specifically that white America has, that black America necessarily does not.
Exactly, and I guess that's the difference here. Like, I'm not afraid of Trump because that kind of racism is something that I've always known existed, and that I'm relatively comfortable with saying America has turned their back on that. It hasn't done enough to combat it in all of its manifestations. You say, like, white liberals, like the white elite, the black elite, really any kind of elite, has sort of given up on combating racism outside of their sphere. Like they said, oh, well, as long as, that's something that exists in the South, and it exists in, North Carolina, and it exists in all these places. And in order to actually combat that effectively, we would have to engage with the economic and material realities of the South, the economic material realities of poverty that leads people to demonize each other when they have no sort of, to exert power over each other, as opposed to sort of try to, because they can't change their economic and material place in, our neoliberal system. But my larger problem is I want people to start saying no to the sort of the democratic elite type of racism. I want that to be the next thing we tackle. While we still tackle the Trump kind of racism, we have to keep saying no to that, but we also have to expand that conversation to start tackling the kind of neoliberal rhetoric that becomes couched that leads to more racist animosity. I think Jill Stein said, neoliberalism leads to neo-fascism. Neoliberalism leads to the economic disparities, the social disparities that become the overt face of the economic problem. Economics is hard, is what I'm trying to say, and so people tend to defer to things they can, or like sort of see very visibly. They can understand.
It bothers me because here's what we have. You've gotten this question, I'm absolutely positive, just as I have. Well, what kind of racism would you prefer? Would you like it subtle, or would you like it in your face? And I think that's the question that America is being asked with this presidential race. You've got Hillary Clinton, I'll just kind of clutch my purse tighter and pull it into me as I walk by you on the street kind of racism. And then you've got Trump going to goddamn Klan rallies and lighting crosses on fire. I mean, they're both, for me at least, equally offensive and equally just, it's bullshit is the best way, and I think the most simple way we can phrase it. It's bullshit. I don't feel like I need to choose my racism. I don't want racism extreme, and I also don't want, I don't want to pay for full price racism, and I also don't want racism light from the left. Let's kind of move away from that shit.
Well, I mean, okay, I'm willing to choose one over the other as long as we can all identify that both things are in fact racist. And I think that is the problem I largely have, where the liberal elite has convinced themselves that they are not racist, that they that they have been allowed to dominate the definition of racism, to point to that Klan rally and say, well, that's racism. The things that I do in my everyday life. No, you don't understand. That's just the way, that's just the way things are. like I don't have any black friends. That's just the way things are because of this. And I mean, that's not racist, but they're all part of the same system and lead to the exact same thing. At a certain point, the Trumps are just a canary in the coal mine. But if you have people on the left who, when police shoot black people, like just decide, well, we have to meet in the middle and find out like what's going on. Like it reveals the fact that racism is still a big underlying factor in our
to
society.
those that do want to say, let's meet, like, you should meet me in the middle about this because police aren't always wrong. Why don't you meet these nuts? Fuck that shit. Fuck that meet me in the middle, sanctimonious, well, maybe he did something wrong, me possibly had it coming bullshit. Fuck that shit.
Okay, well, I'm going to address that a little bit less, aggravatedly. But, okay, so even if you say, and that's the excuse a lot of people give, even if you say that, okay, well, he was committing a crime, he was selling CDs outside that shop.
Which was legal.
Unfortunately, whatever, I don't care. Like, and unfortunately in America, the price for selling bootleg CDs, the penalty for that is not being shot in the streets. The penalty for, selling drugs is not being shot in the streets. The penalty for running away from cops is not being shot in the streets. So, at a certain point, I don't really care what he was doing. In fact, the penalty for carrying a gun around, a concealed weapon, is not being shot in the street.
It is if you're black. The Second Amendment does not apply to those of us that have a certain level of melanin in our skin, because guess what? We're threats. But
I think at a certain point, when you're talking about people trying to convince themselves that these people had it coming, they had it coming when they're being shot by police. Yes, a lot of that is internalized racism. A lot of that is the idea that black people must be doing something wrong and that the cops exist, to protect us from this criminal element. Thank you, Clintons. But a lot of that also comes from this sort of lazy centrism we have in this country. That I would say Obama is like the champion of lazy centrism, where a lot of people, especially President Obama, are so desperate to play the reasonable adult and between what they believe to be unreasonable, let's be honest, children, i.e. the Democrats and Republicans or whatever, whatever two people you want to attribute this to, that they adopt the position in the middle, even if the middle cedes too much ground to one or the other side. So you say, meeting cops in the middle regarding police brutality sort of positions cops and the people they're brutalizing as if they're on equal footing, which they are not for a variety of reasons. And like that's a problem. You have to acknowledge the eccentricity of the circumstances and not try to just be the adult, because ultimately the people who know what they're doing, the people who know the actual underlying structures of oppression, you come across as being stupid. You come across as looking either stupid or racist. So you can choose which one you want to be in the situation, but you're going to be one or the other when you say, well, one side does it, the other side does it.
We have hit the 15-minute mark, and we're trying to stay sharp, guys.
Well, listen.
For those of you who don't like politics, I think that's pretty much the most politicky part of the show. I think this might be our most politicky show. So what do we want to talk about next, Brandon? What do we want to give the viewers? I'm sure we've got a few people in their car really angry at us as we speak, but hey, I still love you guys.
I'm ambivalent towards you, but yeah, and I'm like, speaking of loving things, it's like the Democratic Party comes across as so desperate to me. Like I can't, like it's attractively desperate in their
Speaking
pandering.
Of love, so are you planning to watch the Suicide Squad, or are you pretty much like the reviews said it was shit? I'm not gonna do it.
The reviews said it was. I don't like anything about what I've seen from the commercials, and like that is that's why I can't bring myself to go see it. Because I miss the old Harley Quinn. I don't know what Will Smith is doing in that movie. Like how did they even get him? I mean, that's how you know Will Smith is not black. Because if Will Smith were actually black,
and that's it exactly. It's like because here's one of the things. Here's a line from the movie I can tell you that will not fuck up the movie because I won't give any context to it, so it's just gonna be totally random. But at one point, Deadshot is talking to a white person, and he says, "And if it looks like my daughter's not gonna get into college, right? Get into one of the Ivy League schools, I want you to white people that shit." And the theater, which is most like I live in a city where there's a large minority population. This theater is mostly white people. the theater erupted in laughter at Will Smith saying that. Like, there's some, like, because Will Smith said it, it's acceptable.
Whenever Will Smith,
but I mean, the movie overall was good, and I think you should watch it. And to those that are listening right now, again, you're watching TBD, two black dudes. I think all of you should go home, if you're able to buy a ticket and go watch the Suicide Squad. It is better than I had thought it would be, and Jared Leto's Joker is absolutely phenomenal.
Okay, no, now I
haven't felt this way about a Joker since I watched Heath
Ledger. Now I have to stop
his.
you right there, because we're gonna talk about everything you just said, point by point. Every Will Smith movie Will Smith is in, where he is playing a character that you could tell was written for a white person, they throw in one of those throwaway black lines. Like, it was in Men in Black, it was in Men in Black 2, it was in Men in Black 3, it was in Independence Day. They sort of give him one of those, like...
Wait, there's a Men in Black 3? What the fuck?
Yeah, when he goes back in time to, like, the 60s, like, they have to bring up the fact that he's black.
Fuck.
Like, so, like...
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I've seen all of the Will Smith movies, except for Hitch, ironically enough. Okay, anyway.
Good movie.
Second of all, Jared Leto's Joker, just the whole outfit doesn't scream Joker to me. Like,
but it does if you take Joker in the context of the Joker. So here's the thing about those of us that like comics, and those of us that are I
like comics.
You and I would say, are both comic book nerds. We know the Joker is a multifaceted character. Heath Ledger's Joker played on that anarchistic, I just want to fuck everything up. That one particular comic where there's only a candle in the world and it's the only thing that's providing any source of light, and the Joker blows it out because why the fuck not? But there's also that Joker that is a straight up thug, and I think he's an insane nut job thug, and that was Jared Leto's Joker, and I think he played it to a level that I was even surprised about. There are some complaints that I have about it, but that's mostly the plot of the movie, and again, until folks see it, I can't actually talk about it because it will spoil the movie, and I'm not going to do that to you guys.
I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine the Joker sitting down to get tattoos. That's one of the big things about.
I think he did them himself. I think he did those himself. I think all of those could have been done by the Joker, and I think that's what it was. I don't think he sat down to do them. Or, so those of us who actually know about The Killing Joke know that the Joker wasn't always this way, so he quite possibly was, they took a artistic liberty and decided he was going to get tattoos before he came the Joker. But I think if he got the tattoos after, I think where he got them, the way they look, I think he did it himself. Or he just did it on a whim, and that's very Joker-esque.
Yeah, and he has those grills for some reason. Like, he has, Nelly grills. Like,
it's not even Nelly. I wouldn't even call it a real grill, because it's not... Like, there's gaps in it where you see his teeth, and it's actually quite disturbing to look at and really get... But again, this isn't Heath Ledger's anarchistic Joker. This isn't even going back and, more of the suave thug kind of Joker. This is the I'm fucking insane, but I'm still a thug, and it was well done. It was more of a New 52 Joker. If anything, I feel it was more in tune with the New 52 era, where it's less about some of the classic ideas about what a character has to be. And as for Harley Quinn, there are tons of Easter eggs, bro. There are tons of Easter eggs in it. But you have to watch it to get it, because I think a lot of the concerns you've raised were addressed in the movie.
I just missed the old costume. I missed the old Harley Quinn costume.
I cannot tell you. I want to, every time you talk about that, I want to tell you something, but I can't.
Yeah, I understand it, but they also redesigned her costume in the comic book, and I missed the old fun, pun named Harley Quinn. Now it's like she just looks like an albino prostitute who got put in a washing machine with pins in her pocket. That's what she looks like. And our friend David brought it up. Yeah, David brought it up that maybe they're trying to go off this whole Suicide Girl thing, which is a whole. I have my own issue with this.
That was Dave that brought.
Yeah, yeah. David. I can't remember which one he goes by. But
there's David and there's David.
Okay,
David
fine.
Does the big production stuff.
Okay, inside baseball, but And yeah, I was like, are Suicide Girls popular enough to even warrant that kind of...
Yes.
Are they? Listen, Suicide Girls are fine.
Yes, they are, but no, they are popular enough still, because I see that all the time on, my Facebook feed. they're mostly popular around, for white dudes. Like it's a white dude thing that I've noticed. I mean, I think we can all agree that most of them we definitely find them attractive, even though that's neither here nor there. I think it was kind of that Harley Quinn has become basically the sex idol for DC, and they're really playing that hard. I don't feel that's her character, and I agree with you there because the Harley Quinn character had never been kind of like that was if we're true to the comics, the sex idol characters in Batman are Poison Ivy and Catwoman. Like that is who is they've always done that for. It was never Harley Quinn. But I think they're moving more towards that. Like with the whole DC Bombshells comic series and all that other stuff, like they're trying to move. I don't know. It's bothersome. It really is. It's not something I find acceptable, but I would say watch the movie. Just sit down, watch the movie. It's actually quite good. It's well done. The characters in there, I think they did a good job with it. Like Captain Boomerang, even he's not a racist prick, and that's pretty shocking.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with you when it comes to the sexiness of, Poison Ivy, Catwoman, and how Harley Quinn never really fit that role. Oh yeah, and also Batgirl to that extent. The Barbara Gordon Batgirl. I mean, they were sexy in the same way like the comic book sexy because you draw pretty girls to sell comic books. But I never found that to be particularly distasteful, and I know this is gonna come across as being delightfully misogynist, but I don't give massages, so whatever. Uh, because from my perspective, closing off Batman from the other DC Universe characters and everything else, everything that happens in Batman comic books to me is an extension of Batman. So you say Gotham is an extension of Batman, the police force is an extension of Batman, his villains are extensions of Batman. So everything around him says something about either Batman's psyche or his view of the world or or whatever neuroses he happens to have. So to me, when you're looking at the sort of the female villains, the female characters, which I would say the big three would probably be, well, really only a few female villainesses in Batman. But talking specifically about Poison Ivy and Catwoman, like what women mean to Batman and how being a vigilante, being the Bat has affected his relationships, his sexual relationships, his relationship with women platonically, the way he views women. Like let's look at all of I mean, Catwoman and Poison Ivy were your examples, so let's look at those two. They're both seductresses who are trying to get Batman to do wrong. So Poison Ivy draws very strongly from a sort of Eve tempting Batman kind of motif. Catwoman is the same way, but a little bit less overt because she's not nature themed. But they both have that kind of air about them, that they are appealing to Batman's more raw emotional nature, which he tries to suppress, and that is Batman's sexuality. I don't know that's his id maybe or his. I guess Batman's a super ego, so they're appealing to his id in terms of his base human desires for female company, and the way that can be used to uh, seduce and not pervert, but what's the word I'm looking for? It could be his fall from grace. When it comes to Harley Quinn, I mean, I always felt that she was similar to Batman, similar to Joker in the way someone like Catwoman would be to Batman, in that she was a weakness that Joker had because he did, in some ways care about her, but also from a more thematic point of view, standpoint rather. She represented the ways in which love can be perverse, love can be violent, love can be not a good thing because she's madly in love with Joker. So I guess the dangers of unreciprocated love. And some of the best episodes of Batman the animated series had to do with Joker and Harley Quinn's romance and the ways in which love can be violent. And they explored the character's bisexuality with Poison Ivy and Livewire. Harley Quinn is a very deep character, and with a lot of layers. Even though that she's apparently goofy on the outside, but they've kind of stripped her of that, especially in the new, and especially what it looks like in the Suicide Squad movie. They've stripped her of that sort of layered commentary about who she is as a person and what she represents within the larger Batman universe, which is the dangers of love, which I would say, again, all female characters in the Batman universe seem to represent the dangers of love. And like what, at least from Batman's point of view, like how love can be dangerous and lead to his downfall. Which again, that's a theme that was explored in one of the Batman comic books. I would say the one by Kevin Smith, not Cacophony, but the one after the Widening Gyre, which I thought was pretty alright. But in that one, he falls in love with Silver St. Cloud and gives up being Batman, and then she's killed. Oh, sorry, spoiler alert for that one. Then she's killed by a villain called Onomatopoeia, and again, that leads to another sort of Batman, a downfall for Batman, sort of a low point for Batman. So you can say Lois Lane represents Superman's humanity, like the thing that tethers Superman to the human race when he would normally just be a god. But for Batman, women represent sort of that fall from paradise that I guess he considers Batman to be, which would be the fall from perfection, like giving into his more human needs. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll probably still watch it, but I don't know if I'm actually gonna go pay my firstborn child to see that movie in New York City.
Oh, how much does it cost to watch a movie out there? Like, I mean, So I have T-Mobile, so I got a free ticket to begin with. Well, mostly free. It cost me like $1 or something, but it's like $13 to go watch a movie here.
The last thing my phone company gave me for free was a copy of Magna Carta Holy Grail, and I mean, like that was still too expensive. To be perfectly honest, that was still too expensive of a cost. No, okay, so back to what I was saying. Like, yeah, but I mean, I miss the old Harley. Like, she wasn't always. I think they try to make her more like quirky and weird, and I don't feel like she was really like that. I don't know if she was ever really like that. At least not back in the Batman animated series. She always came across as being, a little bit dim and goofy.
She was, but it's not so much quirky as haha. Like, it's the same kind of stuff. Like, I felt watching this movie, I felt this Harley Quinn could have been the same one that was from Batman the Animated Series. I felt that there was a lot of similarities there. And there's even a lot of play to the fact that she was a psychiatrist in the movie. Like, at one point she's talking and she's just like another classic sociopath, and it's just like that one brief moment of clarity for Harley Quinn, but it shows a lot about the character if you actually have read the comics, seen the old TV shows, and really like Batman. I think it was well done. Because again, it's mostly Batman villains in this movie.
And also, just to sum it up, I think that Harley Quinn's relationship with the Joker is actually a very good parallel for Batman's relationship with the Joker as well. I think that when you look at the way Harley Quinn started off trying to help people and then was corrupted by the Joker into becoming a violent psychopath, it represents the way Batman doesn't want to be as well. The Batman is incredibly violent, but he doesn't want to cross that line, and he always sees himself as being about to cross that line with the Joker. I thought that was the plot. That was one of the plot points of The Killing Joke. It was one of the plot points of the Dark Knight Returns, where the Batman's need, like, desire to let the Joker, or rather, the Joker's desire to make Batman fall from grace, from the point to do with having Batman kill him. But then you look at Batman, but Batman's relationship with the Joker is just as violent and reckless and a danger to himself and others as Harley Quinn's is. And like, that's a really interesting parallel between the two of them. That both Harley Quinn and Batman started off being good, and the Joker wanted to corrupt both of them, managed to corrupt Harley Quinn, and is still trying to corrupt Batman. But they both engage in this incredibly unhealthy relationship with the Joker. It's like, it's like Heath Ledger Joker said, I have a feeling we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. And the Joker has said that in hundreds of comic books, that they have that kind of relationship, and it's bad for everybody. And also, I also miss Arlene Sorkin as the voice actor, because no one says Puddin' like Arlene Sorkin says Puddin'. Not even Bill Cosby, but that's the only Bill Cosby joke I'm willing to make at this point, because it's still a little much, even for me. But I've heard this is about the Suicide Girls, and I mean, I know this might be sacrosanct, but I'm not even that big of a fan of the Suicide Girls, to be perfectly honest. And I mean, I follow a few of them on Instagram because like my Instagram is basically just like food, The Rock, um, and Suicide Girls. But I guess their whole thing is that they're like they're nerdy and approachable, which is I guess whatever if you're into that sort of thing. But like I feel like it's like following someone who okay. I'm gonna say this right now, and I want you to let me get through the whole analogy
Oh fuck.
because if you don't let me get through the whole analogy, it's gonna come across as being vaguely
Hey
creepy.
guys,
But
mute your audio now. I don't think you want to hear this. Brandon's about to be gross.
it's
We need fucking
it's
sound
like
effects. That's what we need. I need a
it's
fucking
like it's
button to
like
press.
okay. No, let me finish. Let me finish. It's like following a really sexy kindergartner because every so often, like you'll like it'll be like 9 pictures of like ass, titties, ass. Look how I woke up this morning, just fully makeup and in this push-up bra. Like, can you believe it, guys? Huh? And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, man, I'm down with it. But then like every 10th picture will be like, look at this thing I drew. Look, you see, want to see this doodle? You can, like I'm so artsy, and I'm just like, I'm not here for that, man. It's like, what do you want me to do? Put it on my fridge? Yeah,
I don't feel you can say that without ever being creepy in some way, shape, or form.
no, no. I feel like I feel like I'm supposed to do the same thing I would do to a kindergartner if they came to me with like a picture they drew in school and like, oh, like good, yay, oh, this is a house.
So
Oh, yeah, of
basically, you're
course.
saying all the Suicide Girls are age players. Is that what you're saying? Like
No,
that's what it comes across as. Like is
no, I'm saying that like I'm at as someone who is just objectifying them and like, who just wants to look at them as sexual objects. And who's uninterested in them as people or any of their other interests other than posing. It comes across as off-putting to me to occasionally have to look at some of their other things. The same way, the same way it would be, it would be like if you're watching, I don't know, if you're watching the Human Centipede and suddenly they just splice in a few scenes from from Barney. I'm not it's just not what I'm here for. It's not what I'm here for. And I mean, I'm unprepared to play the game where I go, oh, what a beautiful drawing you made here, Miss Suicide Girl. Can you please show me some more of your ass? Thank you.
I mean, at least
So,
you
but
recognize that you're there to objectify someone. I don't think objectification is a good thing, but recognizing that you're doing it, I think, is a first step. And I think we should have. I'm not going to speak more to it because I'm not a woman, and so I don't actually deal with that.
the first step to what? I'm not gonna stop.
I mean, I'm not. I'm not
I'm
going to speak more to it because I don't really deal with it in that sense. I mean, occasionally you and I might, if we wanted to run into a white girl who's just like, well, he's black, and objectified due to that. But I think those tend to be further and fewer between, right? But I mean, it's a good movie. At the end of the day, I think everybody should watch it. I think it was really well done, and I'm a comic nerd, so it's got my comic nerd seal of approval. There's
I
definitely
want to address
complaints. Don't get me wrong. There's some things I
I want to
really
address
didn't
what you
like,
just said right
but
there.
it was good.
I'm gonna address what you said right there. I do occasionally date white girls, and like yeah, objectification is awful. But it's like the old saying about capitalism. Now the only thing worse than being exploited by capital is not being exploited by capital.
No, I'm cool off
And
of it. I'm like,
and it's just like and it's just no, but from my perspective, like sometimes you get there, and I'm be honest with you. Sometimes I like being someone's only black friend. Sometimes I like being,
hell no.
someone's porthole into black culture. 'Cause I'm the worst at being black. I mean, the only thing worse than having no black friends is having one black friend. And the only thing worse than having one black friend is having that one black friend be me. Because if you only have one black friend, all of your knowledge about black people and the plurality of blackness is going to come from that one dude. And if that one dude is me, I am going to fuck up what you know. I'm gonna have you half convinced that black people are actually werecats, and that during the full moon we all transform into like half panther, half men.
see, I'm
It's just like
like,
I'm always
if you're here
I'm
because I'm
always
black, you can fuck right on off. Like that is
it's like I'm
exactly
only
how I feel about it. You can go eat a bag
it's
of
just
baby
like
dicks and fuck right on off.
I'm always like 7 black dances behind the popular black dance. Like I just learned how to do the cat daddy last
Shut
week.
the hell up.
So,
If you don't
okay,
shut
so
up with that bullshit
no, okay,
right
no,
there,
hold on, no, so let
Mister,
me
I
finish.
go
Okay, so
back
I
to
was
girls' houses and watch the DNC. Sit down.
no, okay, this is another story about me going back to a girl's house. But I went back to her house and we were watching Degrassi because why wouldn't you be watching
Is this the
Degrassi? Because Drake is
snowstorm
in
one?
that. It's the snowstorm one. Okay, so and no, but I didn't tell you this part of the story. And so
Wait, you gotta tell
so
you
we
gotta
just
tell the audience the whole story. Like they gotta know like the whole thing because I already know it's
what
funny, but they don't yet.
I got trapped in someone's house during a snowstorm
Not
up in
someone.
Harlem.
It's come on. Full disclosure.
A girl a girl I was dating at the time. I got trapped in her house during a snowstorm because it was snowy. You can't get out. I'm not shoveling someone's walk or it's not important. And so we're just watching Degrassi and eating popcorn for like 3 days straight. And at some point, this is the part of the story you don't know. I don't know how. I don't remember how it came up, but I go, well, oh yeah, I remember now. We were watching rap videos because apparently she was a really big fan of Little Durk, and I don't know who that is. Uh,
I don't either, to
it's
be fully honest.
I'm just like that sounds like something. It's like some little boosie
Right.
bass god thing. Whatever. If it's not riff raff, I don't like
Yo,
it.
whoa. Lil B is good.
No,
I fuck with the bass god.
let me finish. Okay, so so I'm like, oh well, am I the first black guy you dated? And she's like, no, I've dated a lot of black guys before. You black, white, whatever. And in my heart, I'm just like, I'm not special. I just think this, and like it's. I mean, it's not the best emotion to have in relation to that, but
Why don't you
certainly
take
it's
your
like
ass to the
okay,
suburbs, man? Like one of them
because I don't
gated
want to get shot.
communities. You know good and damn well you ain't no one ever gonna have dated a black guy before up there. You can go get your special snowflake feeling up that way,
It's just like
man.
sometimes you want to feel special.
Man, you fucking it up for the
Sometimes
rest of us. Like that's the hell no.
whatever. Anyway, why am I going to the suburbs so I can play Pokemon Go with the rest of you losers?
Hey. Don't you hate on Pokemon Go just because you
Let
picked the
me.
fucking Bulbasaur and had no idea about fucking strategy and you couldn't take the hard route doesn't mean Pokemon Go sucks. It's actually quite fun.
I know I stopped playing Pokemon Go because the servers wouldn't work, and I got bored waiting
The
for it to
servers have
start
been
working properly.
fixed. The only issue that I have right now is they removed the ability to track Pokemon in relation to you. Which, when I was first playing, was like, oh yeah, this shit is really cool. I can track where the Pokemon is and be like, it's right here, and I'm over here, so let me walk this way. Now it's just kind of like, walk the fuck around until you find it, guys. I mean, they're showing up at a little bit further distance for me because of that, but I'm going to send a review to Niantic and be like, this is bullshit. Like, this is actual bullshit.
Okay, so that's not really my problem with Pokemon Go. My problem with Pokemon Go, from a more I guess social issue, is that I don't like. It just makes me think of what life would be like if I lived in the world of Pokemon. Not the Ash Ketchum world, but like if Pokemon just existed in American society today, and how screwed up everything would be. Because let's be honest, Team Magma and Team Aqua are basically just the Bloods and the Crips, and I don't want black gang members walking around with like I don't know Charizards or whatever trying to like steal my wallet. And also just could you imagine how depressing police brutality videos would be if Pokemon were real?
Okay, I'm going to say they're
Like,
depressing
could you,
now, but I could not imagine seeing someone getting beaten to death by a Rhydon.
no, it would just be like, oh, sir, can you show me your wallet? And he reaches for it, and it's just like he's reaching for something. Blastoise, Hydro Pump. Like, he's reaching for his balls. Grab it. And it comes. It would be.
I'm gonna make that a soundbite. That's gonna be a soundbite for future reference. He's reaching for his balls. Grab it. Like that's where. I'm gonna cut that audio out, and I swear to fucking God, we need sound effects. And I'm going. Hey, folks listening right now, I'm gonna find sound effects for at least the next episode on, and we're gonna have stupid ass sound effects because shit like that. He's reaching for his balls. That's
like, officer, why did you hit the suspect with a fire blast? Well, I thought I was reaching for my Pikachu to give him a thunderbolt, but I got the wrong ball. we don't live in the kind of society that could handle that kind of deep. Although I guess Michael Vick would be better off in terms of.
I mean, that's true. There's a few people. I mean, dog fighting wouldn't be a big thing, but I'm not gonna lie. If Pokemon were real, bro, I'd be a total dragon type trainer just because they're so badass. Like, throw a Charizard on that team, some Dragonites, you know, and you're set. Like, who's gonna want to fuck with you?
I don't know. Charizard was always the pick for fuckboys.
Not even. Like, in 1997, there was no such thing as a fuckboy. You picked Charizard because you picked Charmander because you're like, oh yeah, I want the fire type. And so when that becomes your first pick, that's who you stick with. If you pick Squirtle, you just copped out for the first gym because you probably restarted. And if you picked Bulbasaur, you were just an asshole because you had the first two gyms easy and had no idea about what the fuck strategy was. OGs pick Charmander, and you're just a fucking hater with your Bulbasaur picking ass.
First of all, OG fuckboys. Because back in the people who picked Charmander back in 1997 grew up to send dick pictures to girls online who don't want them.
Yeah, no,
like,
I believe that's the dude who goes to girls' houses after a date and watches the DNC. Just saying. Like, every story you're with a girl, bro. Like, I'm sorry, I think out of the two of us, it's you, Bulbasaur.
I didn't pick Bulbasaur. I did. Never mind. I couldn't remember.
Everyone who hates on Charmander picked Bulbasaur. Like, it's a pattern that is followed. It happens. We understand.
Well, the reason you picked Bulbasaur is because water Pokemon are the most populous type Pokemon in the world.
They're fucking not. Nobody likes grass types. Nobody. Grass types suck. They're so weak against so many things. Flying, ice, fire. I mean, fuck that noise.
Listen, I'm a member of the Green Party, so I have to. Apparently, you're red like Republicans because you like, you know.
Actually, my favorite Pokemon is Dragonite, and my second favorite is Articuno, but Charizard comes in third, so.
You would like Articuno, wouldn't you?
You son of a bitch. You're the one who sends up here and is like, I feel special if I'm the only black guy she's dated. Shut the hell up.
I didn't say it was right to feel that way. I didn't say it was right to feel that way. I said I felt that way. Like, you can't make fun of me for my feelings.
I can, though, and I will, because I'm an asshole.
Well, what you say, you are what you eat, so...
I think you're getting us mixed up there, my friend. I don't do the same kind of shit you do. I mean, I'm cool.
I'm not denying I've done that before.
And like, see, and I haven't, like, ever, and hell no.
Okay, see, here's the thing. The best part about eating someone's
Are we really going to talk about this?
Is that you officially know what tastes worse and what tastes better than asshole taste. And there are a lot of things that you eat on a date that people eat and drink on a day-to-day basis that taste way worse than asshole.
Yeah, see,
Red Bull for one. They're not just like the bad flavored ones, like the normal Red Bull tastes way worse than
Hell
asshole.
no. I don't feel I'll ever need to know this. I don't want.
But now you do. Now you do.
No, that's hell no. That's gross. No,
Kale?
It ain't happening.
You eat kale?
You old ass eating grass Pokemon fuckboy ass. Hell no. I'm gonna start calling you fuckboy RD. That's your new name. That's what your Twitter handle needs to be fuckboy RD.
Okay, so kale tastes worse.
Oh, sorry, all you vegans out there. Apparently, kale tastes worse than someone's asshole. Just so you guys are fucking aware.
It does. I mean, I imagine everyone's asshole. Well, not everyone's. I can't speak for that. But
it's just like,
I can't speak to
I
them.
spent my life going place to place, eating each and every individual ass that I ran across.
I mean, that's really the story of Pokemon. If you just replace Pokemon with ass.
So if we replace Pokemon with ass, we get your life story. All right, good to know.
I mean, if you replace Pokemon with Pokemon, you get my life story. I've played every Pokemon game since they came out.
I'm with you. I'm actually trying to collect a bunch of event Pokemon on Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So those of you who are watching that play Pokemon on the 3DS, please feel free to drop a comment with your... Actually, you know what? Drop a comment with your shit. Add me if you have event Pokemon. Follow us on Twitter, by the way, because we're running out of time, folks. Follow at Project_Sanity. You can follow me at ADAIRSCHMIDT and a capital PS at the end. Brandon, what's your Twitter handle? we might get that 12 followers up a little bit.
Listen, I don't need any more people following me. I don't need any more people seeing what goes on in my head during during the day.
Well,
let's be honest. Twitter, all Twitter has done for the world is show people how dumb their favorite celebrities are. All it's done is ruin the world. Twitter ruined the world for everyone. It ruined the mystique of everyone. And worse than anything, once you give someone who you once you give a person who has a lot of money or influence for some random reason, whether it's because they have a television show or because they're the CEO of Facebook or whatever, they feel qualified to or because they wrote Harry Potter, they feel qualified to comment on everything that happens. And all it does is show you how ignorant most people are. It's like when Dan Savage talked about the Green Party and he just came across as an ignorant a-hole.
That's fair.
And I mean, it's I'm not, first of all, I guess I'm biased against Dan Savage because I went to a party once, or an event.
Real quick. And I'm going to plug you because fuck you, you're getting a plug. Follow Brandon at capital PS _ capital ABS, and the no more capitals opinion. Follow his ass on Twitter because he's got 26 followers now. Excuse me, but he's following 23. We need to up that ratio, folks. We need to get his ass some followers, even though he's creepy and likes to eat ass. But continue.
Okay, so I was at an event and someone told me that Dan Savage was there, and I got really excited because I thought Dan Savage was the person who played Corey in A Boy Meets World, but that's Ben Savage. And
I thought it was
so I got
Screech.
I was just completely devastated when I found out it was not the same guy. Ultimately, yeah, but Dan Savage, I don't know if you saw it, but Dan Savage came on his show, Savage Love, because, puns, and just, popped so much, shit about the Green Party. And he was just entirely wrong about everything. He was so completely ignorant about the way American political structure works that the Green Party put out an article in HuffPo, because basically for viewers who don't know, basically came out and said, oh, the Green Party only runs presidents, and that's not how you start a revolution. You need to start from the grassroots up. But of course, he said he used a lot of curses because, let's be honest, Dan Savage is meant for children. Dan Savage is a sex commentator meant for middle class people between the ages of 17 to 22.
I feel he's very popular here in Seattle though. Seattle loves him. It's
absolutely because he's an elite minority, and
true.
People who think they're liberal love elite minorities, even if the position the elite minority is espousing is dangerous for minorities in general and just basically pretty ignorant. But no, he's meant for children, and you know how you know he's meant for children because he curses all the time, and he does the exact same thing that professors who think that they are cool do, which is curse all the time. Because when you teach a college class, cursing is a good way to make the kids giggle, school. But basically, he's.
Well, I guess this show might be meant for children then. Well, I don't know. I would say so, but then again, we've talked about how you like to eat ass. I don't know.
I'm not trying to impress anybody.
We're a very niche audience, I feel, and I really hope, just so you folks know, we're much more cultured on Project Sanity. This is just us kind of being able to fuck around.
I'm not.
You're seeing two black dudes hang out and talk.
I am not trying to impress anyone with my cursing. I don't give a shit if anyone likes it. And my cursing is less of the cute I say fuck a lot kind, and more I use words like cum dumpster and
I don't feel like that's...
And not just,
I call people a yeast-infected twat bubble, so I don't really feel like that's cursing, though.
Anyway, so basically Dan Savage is meant for 17 to 23-year-old sexual neurotic people who need a little bit of coaxing to let you stick a pinky in their butthole.
Yeah, no, not happening.
Yeah, anyway, but specifically, they run candidates from dog catcher on up. And they have mayoral candidates, they have all these candidates, and that sort of idea that the Green Party is not a legitimate party because they only run presidents, it sort of attaches the idea of whether qualifications with money. People have internalized this notion that the Democratic and Republican parties are popular not because of the money they have, but because they deserve it. It's the whole meritocratic system all over again. It's Democrats and Republicans are popular because they have, or rather, forget the Republicans for that. We're talking about the liberal circles. Democrats are popular because they somehow deserve it. They have the money. I mean, sorry, they have the money. They have the ideas. They have the platform. They have legislative agenda. Like they don't have any of those things. They just have a lot of money. And I think that what the DNC
True.
has proven, and it's something that they've been saying about the Republicans for a long time, is that the Republicans only represent a very small minority of the populace. But apparently, so do only the Democrats. Like the Democrats only represent a very small minority of the populace as
True.
well. But they've been able to convince the rest of the populace that like they are incredibly popular, when really both the Democrats and Republicans are incredibly unpopular. If you consider people who don't vote and people who don't like, not only people who don't like them explicitly, but do not vote, they're incredibly unpopular. The Democrats and Republicans are incredibly unpopular people, and it's like it's time to say, from my perspective, it's time to say no to that whole system. They like you just can't have two antagonistic proto political parties like with no actual goals or with no actual legislative plans or ideals that work, because you succumb to fundamentalism. Like you succumb to just the basic gang mentality and fundamentalism. And honestly, I guess that's why I found the DNC to be slightly more off-putting than the RNC, because while the RNC, they were obviously fear-mongering, they weren't even trying to pretend like they weren't fear-mongering. The DNC was pretending like it was not preaching a message of fear, simply because it was putting a thin veil, because it was rhetorically using the words hope and change. And to me, that's worse. And I think this electoral cycle, we have seen that a lot of people feel that disingenuous liberalism is kind of worse than honest conservatism. And ultimately, that was the DNC's message. You should be afraid. You should be afraid of Trump, and that's why you should vote for Clinton. Uh, and if you dare to ask the question, well, like, okay, well, what does Clinton have to offer me? They pointed to Trump, and that reveals the DNC platform for what it is: a thinly veiled threat. You vote for us, or you get them. And functionally, I'm not okay with that kind of extortion. Like, I don't want to vote based on fear, and frankly, I'm not afraid of Trump in that kind of way. I was never going to vote for Trump. I don't keep up with Trump, so I expected from the DNC to be reasons why I should vote for Hillary, irrespective of the Republican Party, and I didn't get that. To the point where I think I made a bet with our audience that if they could get through the night without saying Trump's name 10 times, I would vote for Hillary Clinton. And they just never did. They could just never do it. They couldn't help themselves, because that's really been the Democratic Party platform for a very long time, not the Republicans. And ultimately, that's what I think Jill Stein has right, that people like Nina Turner and Bernie Sanders does not have right. That you can point to the Republican Party all you want and say that, oh, look how bad they are. But you have to understand that in order for them to exist, and not just exist at the Republican Party in their current manifestation, but in order for that type of thing to exist, you have to have a two-party system. Like, it's very hard for a party that represents that small minority of a populace to gain such prominence unless you have a two-party system, and you can only get rid of that system by getting rid of both the Republican and Democratic parties. And it's time to do that. How much I agree with the Green platform is kind of irrelevant at this point, because I understand that next time we get a Trump versus Clinton, people are going to go, I mean, not literally, not like Trump's kids versus Clinton's kids, but next time we get a Trump versus Clinton-esque race, people are going to vote for the Trump, because after 4 years of Clinton, after 8 years of Clinton, which is what we're going to have probably, people are going to recognize how bad neoliberalism in that way is for America. And they're going to recognize how much the Democratic Party cheated. And I think that's the most frustrating part, because people are very, we're not only talking about two different types of racism, like we talked about earlier. We're talking about two different types of authoritarianism. We have the sort of Trump goose-stepping kind, and now we have, with the Clintons manipulating the public perception, whether you're talking about the media or the convention itself, we have that kind of 1984 Orwellian "we happy few," where everything seems unified on the outside, but once you get beyond that upper crust, everything is in chaos. And there's so much dissent, and so many people being so many people are being silenced in a variety of ways. And, again, for all the talk about Hitler, I mean, sorry, not Hitler, all the talk about Trump, slip of the tongue, I guess, being, next Hitler, Trump is at best Berlusconi. At best. And what I would have to say to that is that both parties are using the fear of this ethereal threat. For the Trumps, it's brown people, whether that be Mexicans or, Muslims. And for the Democratic Party, that's Trump. They're using this ethereal fear to get what they want. And the Democratic Party specifically is using this ethereal fear of Trump to justify subverting democracy, controlling the media, ignoring what is, let's be honest, cheating because it violates the Democratic National Committees, the DNC's actual charter, which is why they have a lawsuit against them because they violated their own charter. And they're doing that, they're subverting democracy, curtailing civil rights, silencing free speech, all these other things, all in service of tackling this ethereal threat that they just can't seem to pin down and tell us what it's going to do. Because, they can point and say Trump is bad. But, you say, well, what is he going to do that Clinton probably won't do or hasn't done? And they can't really answer that question. They can just tell us that he's bad. And from my perspective, I think that's very Nazi-ish, Nazi-esque, Nazi-ish, whatever. Like the curtailing of civil rights in order to prevent an ethereal threat is incredibly authoritarian and fascist.
Well, on that note, folks, it's been about an hour. Our podcast, I think we're going to wrap up on that really high-key intellectual note. So once more, I'm Adair Schmidt. My co-host here is Brandon. He is, well, a dick. You can follow us on Twitter, myself at Adair Schmidt, capital PS. You can follow Brandon at capital PS _ capital ABS, no more capitals, opinion. Follow at Project _ Sanity. Catch the live show Thursdays, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern on the YouTubes. Other than that, any parting words for our pilot episode, Brandon?
Hopefully they will get better, and I don't eat dicks. Although I say eat a dick a lot.
He just eats ass, folks. All right, we'll see you guys. We're probably going to start recording on Saturdays and hopefully have this released out to you guys by Sunday or Monday. So, keep an eye out. Give us a shout out on Twitter. We're pretty interactive. And again, catch the live show every Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, when it's much more reserved, much more refined, and we don't sound like, we're in our early and mid 20s. But fuck it. All right. See you, folks.
Hey, bye.